welcome back everybody to We Are TPM with myself, Kyle Teixeira, sitting next to this guy right here, John Teixeira. We are back this week to discuss 15-year notes. Notes that go on for 15 years.
Are those treasury notes?
Yep. No, 15-year home loans, 15-year amortizations, 15-year mortgages. If you like to discuss this, there's some lenders, or you can give us a call and we'll link you up at 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. But we are not financial advisors. This is not financial advice. We are just
nobody's talking
entertain
smack.
You with some information about 15-year mortgages. Ain't that right?
That's right.
All right. How do you want to do this?
Well, I've done this, and I recently had a conversation with a client who's doing it. So we had an interesting conversation, and I thought it would be a good topic to bring to our audience because, because we've done it on one of the properties that you and I own together too, and there's nothing more when you look at your mortgage, your typical mortgage statement. 30-year amortized mortgage statement, especially at the beginning of it, there's probably nothing more depressing than making a $1,500 payment and seeing that $1,200 of it went to interest to the bank and $300 went to your principal, right? That's at the beginning. That changes and it front loads, so to speak. And then so at the end, it's just the opposite, right? Toward the end of the loan, most of what you pay is to principal. But the problem is most people don't get to the end of a loan, right? They refinance, they sell something. So that's one of the reasons why I have a 15-year note, because I have a philosophy that if I'm going to refinance one of my properties and I'm going to pay all that front-loaded interest, I don't want to do it again with another 30-year note. Like, I don't want to refinance 10 years in. And then maybe it's just my pea-brain elementary way of thinking, but I have rolled mine into 15-year notes so that when I look at my statement every month, a bunch of my payment, that same $1,500 payment, so to speak, a bunch of it, like $1,000 or more, is going toward principal and less is going to interest.
So you're saying that we're basically talking about the two standard conventional loans, which is a 15-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage, yep. Right? So that makes sense. Why is it all front-loaded?
Well, all mortgages are front-loaded, but because it's only 15 years, it's accelerated and you're paying more principal up front. So, for instance, I guess in my brain, in a really elementary way, I had 15, 20 years left on this mortgage. I want to refinance into another mortgage that has that finishes at the same time, so to speak, so that I don't feel like by refinancing, I gave the bank even more interest and more profit on my investment. Now, there's some downsides to doing that, right? Your payment's going to be higher. So if it's an investment property, your cash flow is going to be lower. But for me, it's kind of my retirement plan, right? Like paying those homes off when they get paid off in 15 years, I'm going to be living off of that, right? And you're going to want me to be living off of that because you don't want to pay my way, I assume, right? I
made sure to get a 15-year mortgage with you, I'm like, no, that 30 doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right. There's a lot of reasons to do it. And there's different goals and investment goals, and that's why we're talking about it, because there can be, like we talked about the BRRRR strategy. So BRRRR strategy primarily focuses on equity building. Well, kind of what you're talking about. Well, equity building, is your primary target's equity building and appreciation, then 15-year mortgages get you there way quicker. And the math on it is insane. It's not, well, people think that it's like half as much. Well, it's half the time period. It saves you spend a significant portion less. It's actually compounded savings versus compounding interest. Well, you're avoiding compounding interest, is essentially what you're doing. Because people like to talk about front-loaded interest and call it front-loaded interest, as if the banks just throw all the interest on the front to make money. Well, it's not like they technically take it from later years and move it to the front. It's part of the mathematical equation that you're agreeing to. You're agreeing to a fixed payment. It's because of, fixed payments and amortizations are what cause all that front-loaded interest. 8% of what you initially buy it for, say it's $100,000, 8% of that's $8,000. Well, if you've paid it down over 25 years and now what you owe on it's only $10,000, 8% of $10,000 is $800. That's why so much more goes towards principal later on than it does interest, because your percentage rate accounts for less of a amount.
You don't think it's
payment.
Because the bank is going to is counting on you not having that loan for 30 years? I do.
Well, I mean, there's a ton of reasons why mortgages exist that way, and that's why they're structured. Yeah, it's a risk management thing for the bank. Obviously, if they make most of their interest in the first 8 years, then they're analyzing their risk based on that. But even in a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage, they still make pretty much their amount of money in that 8 years. It's just a lot less risky in a 15-year for them, because they get their money back in 15 years, where they may make $300,000 in interest in 15 years on both notes, but in the 30-year, they still haven't got all their principal back. They're going to make a boatload more after that, so I'm not like they're complaining, but because that risk analysis, they're generally cheaper notes. And what I mean by cheaper is cheaper interest rate.
Yep, that's the other big advantage to doing it. So. Sometimes that cheaper interest rate, it slightly offsets your higher payment, right? It doesn't completely offset it. So let's just say you have a $100,000 mortgage. You're going to amortize it over 30 years, and your payment's $1,000 on a 30-year mortgage. Your payment on a 15-year mortgage, now I'm not a mortgage guy, and I'm not doing any math here. I'm just making some crazy numbers up based on my experience, okay? But your payment is probably going to be, around $1,200, $1,300 a month. It's not as much. It's not that much higher, is my point, than people think it is, because that interest rate, instead of paying, I don't know what interest rates right now are in the high sixes. So if you got a 30-year mortgage in the high sixes, I bet your 15-year mortgage is probably down in the fives. So that difference in interest rate helps to make up for the additional, the contraction of the loan into 15 years.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that it's going to be twice as much. What's my monthly payment on the 30-year versus the 15-year, and they don't even consider the 15-year because they're like, it's going to be twice as much per month. Well, if we're talking about a cost expense, it's not going to be twice as much per month if you escrow tax and insurance. And that's what a lot of people don't consider is like in a 15-year or 30-year, your escrow for tax or insurance isn't changing, because your taxes and your insurance don't change based on that.
And nothing to do
which one you pick on that. And then you take into consideration how much of your monthly payment is escrow. And like Texas, sometimes it's like 40 to 50 to 60% of the monthly payment. So 60% of that doesn't matter on this decision. So now 40% is amortized, or let's say half is amortized 15 or 30 years. Well, even those numbers aren't like, even a 15-year, just the mortgage payment piece is not half of a 30-year, or it's not twice as much as a 30-year. A lot of people think that too.
Right. I understand what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. It's not as much as people think. Now, if I'm an investor and I'm doing this to my investment properties,
It's usually like 60% more or something like that.
If I'm an investor, most investors ultra focus on what we call, there's the short-sighted numbers, right? What is my cash flow right now? And I always tell people, I'm like, look, for instance, let's say you did one of these 15 years and you didn't make, and it brought your cash flow down to zero. Let's say it cost you $100. Okay. Let's say your cash flow was minus $100. My output is $100 more than what I'm bringing in on rent because I did this 15-year note and my payment's higher. There are tons of people out there in America right now putting hundreds, if not thousands of dollars per month into 401ks and IRAs that are going to do less for them financially than that house will. That house, you're paying it down in principal every single month enormously, and it's appreciating at the same time, hopefully. Now, it's not always appreciating. Like right now at this moment in time, in part of the cycle, homes aren't appreciating today, but that's a small blip. When you look at the period of time that you own a home, for the most part, appreciates the entire time. And that appreciation and that pay down is going to way outweigh whatever you would have taken that $100 and put it into a retirement account.
Well, and this is very strategy dependent. We'll repeat that because I've seen 15 years, like when we're talking retirement strategies and mitigating risk and all that stuff. Well, if you have 15 to 20 years till retirement, maybe this is the way to go, because a lot of people, we've talked about the trade-off of, okay, am I going to try to get 5 paid off houses or 50 houses with mortgages and just keep refining them, right? Well, there's reasons to do both. But at the end of the day, if you get the same amount of cash flow at retirement from 5 houses and have way less, repair risk and all these things, and that's your goal, then this is a way to achieve that. You'll get 50 houses will appreciate obviously more. So I've taken that into the argument of like, all right, if I'm in my 20s, I'd want to accumulate as many as I can with mortgages, right. Even 30-year mortgages, right? Because in 30 years from my 20s is be my 50s, and
right.
It all plays into the strategy. So
it's a really good point, because this makes a lot more sense for me than it does for you, right? But it also makes sense for you in the sense that if you want to leverage your house to buy more, right? Then, which you at your age are more likely to do than me, right? You're still paying it down more, paying that principal down more so that you can get to a point where you can do that faster.
Well, and this is a great point, because it plays into strategy. It's actually less advantageous even for that reason for me, because it knocks my cash flow, or not my cash flow, my debt to income goes up than it would have in a 30-year, which brings into another strategy that is commonly talked about, which is to take the 30-year, so you have less of a lender obligation, and pay it like a 15-year, so you can because it'll effectively do the exact same thing if you actually do it. There's some hurdles to that, obviously. We've talked about this. Generally, this is done by making an extra principal payment every month that would make up for what a 15-year would be. Well, most of these banks don't let you do that automatically on their website. Mm-hmm. You got to go manually do it. You have to take some extra steps, because it's not in their favor to sign you for a 30 and you pay it like a 15. But you can do it. But the benefit to that is, like what I just said, is effectively does the same thing. But when I'm trying to pre-qualify with lenders for like more houses, it doesn't hit me the same for my debt to income ratio, because the debt obligation is less. I don't care what I actually am paying to the debt, as long as it's paid on time.
So I want to re-summarize what you just said.
Okay.
Let's try to make it a little bit simpler. So we're talking about 15-year notes and all the reasons why to get a 15-year note. What you're saying is spot on, and I'm going to tell you why some people can't do it. But what you're saying is really smart. Get a 30-year and don't get a 15-year, and effectively make payments to do the same thing that you would be doing with a 15-year, right? Make extra payments so that you're basically doing the same thing, you're getting the same advantages of paying it down quicker. You're not getting the lower interest rate that you get with the 15-year, though, right?
Maybe not, no.
But it helps you in the aspects that you just described, that it helps you in your qualifications for getting another loan because you're less leveraged on a monthly basis, so to speak.
It will still reduce the interest you pay, while the rate may not be the 15
Yes, it will.
It will
still give you all those other advantages, yes. And it is a smart way to go, and probably smarter than getting a 15-year note. However, if you're like me and you're my age, or you're not as disciplined with doing that, and you fear maybe you foresee economic climate changes affecting the way you handle that and manage that, right? Well, my 15-year note is that's my payment whether I like it or not, right? Yeah. Like I am forced to make that payment regardless of the economic climate that's happening, regardless of my current situation or anything else. I got to make that payment, period. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make that payment. Period.
So maybe if you need the obligation.
Yeah.
Obligation could be risk management.
If you're not as disciplined to do what you described, then maybe this still is a better way to accomplish it. Or, if you don't need the monthly qualification you're talking about, you're talking about making your monthly picture look better to a bank so that you can go get new. If that's not an issue for you because you have tons of income or you're not going to go get another mortgage, then
well, here let's take that just slightly deeper, because like what we did, we have one, we mentioned that. We have a different one than what I'm going to describe, but one way you can do this is like if it's a short-term rental. If you have a good cash flow rate over your debt service, well, you can actually do a 15-year DSCR loan. And DSCR loans are they're strictly just math based on the debt service coverage. It's like, well, does it make twice as much as you're going to pay us? Yes, it does. Okay, then we'll give you this. DSCR, most of them do not count against you personally. So they're not going to be looked at when you're getting pre-qualified. Because they're backed by the property, they're not necessarily backed by the person. So you can even get rid of that with the 15-year loans, which I guess you could do with the 30-year too, but it's just easier to justify that DSCR and something specific.
If that's the way you originated it, if that's the way you bought the home, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're going to have to we can do a whole podcast on DSCR loans.
Yeah, we definitely can.
But yeah, we're
debt service coverage ratio.
There you
what
go.
That means.
Yep. We have Trevor in next week, so maybe we can get a little bit of his opinion on the 15-year note. I know there has been times when he's really pushed the idea of 15-year notes with his clients for good reason. One of the things I like about Trevor when he comes in and he gives us updates on the current mortgage climate is I can count on Trevor to always shoot straight with us and with everybody else about what is in their best interest rather than what's in his best interest. If you call one of these 1-800 bank loan type companies, right, most of those people are trained to sell what's in the company's best interest. And one of the things I like about an experienced mortgage banker like Trevor's not the only one out there that does this, by the way. I know a lot of people that have the integrity that he does, but I've worked with Trevor for 16, 17 years, something like that. And is that you can count on getting good advice that doesn't reflect what is in his best interest, but what is in your best interest.
Okay.
I'm just saying we've talked about the ups and downs of the 15-year note here, so I'm anxious to talk to him about that when we have him in next week and see what his opinion is.
I look forward to it. Let's get some numbers on this. This is where people like to see the savings. Is
oh, I love it. That's a good idea.
One of the 30-year note problems people really have when interest rates get high is I'm going to double pay for my house, triple pay for my house, which may hopefully not more than that. But for example, on a $300,000 loan at 6%, which is realistic.
Not very realistic.
On a 30-year note, it would cost about $347,000 in interest. Okay.
What's the monthly payment on that?
Well, I don't have that in this example. The 15-year cost is $154,000. So you save nearly $200,000 in those.
Wow.
In those two different
$200,000. So that means,
but you'd feel a lot if I told you paid $154,000 in interest on your $300,000 note. Maybe you could swallow that a lot better than if I told you, well, you paid me $347,000 on your $300,000 loan.
And again, don't forget, most of that is front loaded. So if you refinance or sell that house or something in 20 years, you paid probably 3/4, if not 2/3 of that interest by that time. They've already made most of their money by that time. Right?
They've probably made the same amount, yeah. And you said, like, when people suggest it, when interest rates get lower, it makes way more sense to do 15% too, because that's why so many more people take advantage of it then. Because, like I said, the escrow amounts for the taxes and insurance don't change. Well, they do change; they go up. In my experience, insurance these days. Can we invest in insurance?
What you mean to say is has nothing to do with that calculation.
Yeah, in that calculation, your monthly cost, it starts to change it less as interest rates go down because it's a less significant swing in the cost of the mortgage.
Yeah.
So, but
what's the difference in mortgage payment? Are you able to figure that out over there quickly?
It's obviously higher, but 2,532 in the 15-year versus 1,799 for the 30-year.
So a little over $200 difference to save $150,000?
No, that was a $732 difference.
Oh, I misheard you. Okay, so $700 a month more to save $158,000. Is that what I remember you saying? I think that's what it was.
No, $200,000 is what you're saving.
$200,000
in that example. Yes. Let's see.
Over 15 years. What's 700 times 15 years? Wonder what those payments are. I'm just trying to give people perspective on what if you're putting 700. That all goes toward principal, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, that's the kind of thing that people are going to wonder. Like if I'm paying an extra $700 over 15 years.
What do you mean an extra $700?
Never mind. It all goes toward principal, so it really doesn't matter.
Steve assumes that it's $126,000. So
there you go. He's so good to us. All right, did we kill this? Anything more on 15-year notes? Should we do it? Should we not?
Yeah, I mean, whether you do it or not, understand the math on it. Execute your strategy based on it. Whether you take the 30 and pay it like a 15, or pay it like your taxes aren't going up.
I think they're both good strategies. Hey, one of the old strategy to pay your mortgage down for primary residences that we used to teach all the time is do a bi-weekly payment. So most people get paid bi-weekly. So when you get your payment, make your half payment to the mortgage company. Now, the key to this is you have to make, in order to make this work, is you have to make that first half payment you make has to be like a head, right? So you have to make your payment and be caught up on your payment and then make another half payment. And then from then on, you make half a payment every 2 weeks. And effectively what you do, if you do that throughout the rest of your mortgage, it's a good budgeting tool, right? For your budget. But if you do that through the rest of your mortgage, you basically make 13 payments instead of 12. Because if you do the math, there's 52 weeks, divide by 4, yada, yada, there's 13.
And I think it's depending on how much what your full payment is, but it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years off of the life of the mortgage.
I've heard 7. I believe it's 7 that's what most people teach, is that method right there takes 7 years off of your mortgage payment. If you did it from the beginning.
Yeah, and one way to execute that logistically is most mortgages, the first month gets paid at closing, right? So everybody thinks they get a free month off. Well, it essentially just gets guaranteed and
part
paid
of your closing
through the
costs.
closing costs.
Right.
But So, don't take advantage of that. Start your payment early and then just do that forever. Like John just said, is that free month essentially that you feel like you get, just pay your mortgage and
100%. If you do
keep
it
it going from there.
If you do it at origination, that's the easiest way to do it. So in your example, if I close right now, where are we? We're August, right? Mm-hmm. So if I were to close right now, I likely wouldn't have a payment until October 1st, would be my first payment, right? So why not make a first payment in September, right? Half a payment first week of September. 2 weeks later, make another half a payment. That way on October 1st, my first payment's already made, right? Or even if I started that in the middle of September and then made my second payment October 1st, I made my 2 half payments and I'm ahead, right?
There you go.
And then October...
Dave Ramsey would be proud.
Yeah. Dave Ramsey would be proud. You're right.
Not about everything we've said, that's for sure. But
he'd like the 15-year note.
I don't care if you take 15-year, 40-year, 30-year, whatever. Just pay as much money as you possibly can to it till it's gone.
He'd probably rather you take 10 or 20-year note. Actually, real estate is the only thing that Dave Ramsey is okay with you leveraging. So if you're listening to...
On his advice, but he personally will not take out loans.
Well, he doesn't need to because he's a multi-millionaire, maybe a billionaire. That's different. But anyways, he's okay with people using real estate and leveraging it because it's an appreciating asset. It's the only appreciating asset out there that you can leverage. So do it.
That's a bold statement. The only appreciating asset.
There's other appreciating assets, but it's the only one that you can count on being a certainty in appreciating. Other ones go up and down.
In insurance.
Well, there's other stuff too, so whatever. Can we be done with this? Are we done talking about 15-year notes?
Yep. If you want a 15-year note, we'll give you some guy to call next week. But otherwise, give us a call to discuss things and other things, stuff and things at 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. And we are out.
We gone.
Go Rangers, go Steelers.
Go Rangers 15 years.